Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Adan and this is going to be my August wrap-up. So this will be all the books I read in August except for the ones that I included in my Cannon Beach vlog. So first of all, there's a sequel to a book I talked about in that vlog, Nothing But the Wolf in Me. This is called For My Wolves by Nikki Clark. This is like 200 pages, whereas the first book was like 300 pages. And this is about a polyamorous relationship between two werewolves and someone who is a little bit werewolf, part werewolf. And it's a pretty sweet story, and it is a werewolf story that does not include the fated mate, love at first sight type trope. The guy is kind of, they did like each other from very early on, but it wasn't this, I'm dedicated to you and I have to be with you because of magical reasons type things. Then we have Batty from Nikki Clark's Leica Lovers series, which is a bunch of romances about aliens, a particular type of alien. And this one does have the fated mates trope, but it's one-sided, so the guy has this sci-fi alien reaction to a woman when he first sees her, and he can never have as strong of a relationship with anyone else as he can with that person. So generally they get together, but he has to convince her that he is worth being dedicated to because she has no particular reason to like him. And this one has a single parent who, so it involves the love interest taking care of the child and forming a father-son relationship with him, which I always enjoy in a romance. Then we have Adan, which is in the same series, and it involves a romance that does not have this fated mate thing going on because the hero is actually fated to somebody else, but she left him, and so now he's going to have a romance with a different person. So it's going to have a lot of different dynamics in that story than in the other previous ones in the series. Then there's Soul in the same series but with a different type of alien, and he becomes interested in the woman right away, and because he's interested, some people who are after him kidnap her to try to blackmail him using her as a hostage. So he has to rescue her, and it's all about that rescue and how they fall in love while escaping from the bad guys. And I really like Soul. He's probably my favorite character from this whole series. Then Playing the Cards You're Dealt by Marian Johnson. This is middle grade. And I guess we'll do a whole section of middle grade now because I read quite a few middle grades. Several of them are sitting over there this month. This one is about a young boy who plays spades, and his whole family has played spades competitively for like a few generations. And he did badly at a competition in spades last year, and so he feels really hurt that his father didn't act as proud of him as he did of his older brother who won in the competition. So he's dealing with that, and he's also dealing with his father starting to act oddly, and we have the background that his dad used to be addicted to drinking and gambling. And so there's worries that that might be happening again. And then we also have topics of friendships ending and friendships starting because our main character is friends with someone who's a bit of a bully. And when that bullying turns towards him, the friendship starts to degrade, and so he starts forming this new friendship with a girl who plays spades. And there's a lot of stuff about toxic masculinity and like combating that. And yeah, it handles lots of topics and made me cry because there are really precious moments and like really heartfelt things and really difficult things, and like friends and family helping each other through difficult things. That was really meaningful, so I highly recommend it. 4.5 stars to that one because it was just so sad. It was I read it quickly, but it was not the most pleasant of reading experiences, because even though it made me cry in a good way, it also made me very sad. But a very good book. For My Wolves, 4 stars. Bati, 3 stars. Adan, 3 stars. And Soul, 4 stars. Now, to be fair, I might have been a bit weepy recently because this book also made me cry. And also, I was driving today and a song by Lizzo came on, and it made me remember how she handled using being called out for using a slur against some disabled people. She handled that really well. She made it right and she apologized really well, and like, other celebrities should look to her for how to handle when they've done something wrong. And so now I'm a fan of hers, and that made me tear up in the car. So like, I might be a little bit weepy, so these might not have normally made me cry, but they are very emotional. So How to Become a Plant by Nicole Melby. Nicole Melby. This is about a girl who has developed depression and anxiety. It seems not from any particular event or series of events, but just through chemical problems. And so I have somewhat similar experiences because I do have chemical difficulties, but they formed as a result of CPTSD related to autism. So like, partially it was something that like I could understand, and not understand because I could understand it anyway, something that I already understood, but I learned more about depression and anxiety that just appear out of brain chemistry gradually through this book. So this is about her figuring out how to deal with her brain, and also how to deal with and manage relationships that have had a lot of problems develop because she has withdrawn and has become lethargic and also angry, and has formed social anxiety and agoraphobia to a certain amount, and how that has impacted her relationship with her friends and her mom, who she's very close to, or she was, and how she wants to get that closeness back. She forms a new friend and finds out she might like girls during this story, and it's easier to make a new friend because the new friend doesn't expect her to be like her old self, and so she finds a lot of relief through that. And so yeah, it was really precious and made me cry at the end. Then I read Ancestor approved intertribal stories for kids, and I cried about 3/4 of the stories in there too, so pretty weepy. But the first like 3 or 4 are especially emotional. The first one is about a kid who had a father who was white and was abusive and eventually left, and gave this kid self-esteem issues, and how bonding with his new stepfather is really helping him with that, and how he gets into fancy dancing as a way to connect with his culture, which he has been separated from, as well as a way to feel more confident in his body and connect with himself as well, and also to spend time with his stepfather. And I was wrong, all of these stories are about people going to the same powwow, so you meet characters from other stories who have cameos in all of each other's stories, so that was really cool. 5 stars to How to Become a Plant, and 5 stars to Ancestor approved. This one is Princess Ever After. Is a graphic novel about a princess who rescues another princess from a tower, and how they continue to have adventures and help other people out after that, and how they build each other's self-esteem and like figure out their places in the world, because neither of them want to be what they have been told they are by their families. And there's a cute little dragon who was kind of supposed to be guarding the girl in the tower, but they're actually friends. Andy in Shoes is a lot of really precious stories about a boy and his grandfather who live together and how they take care of all their neighbors' pets for the holidays, and how the boy buys some shoes for his grandfather, some moccasins that reminded his grandfather of home when they're not able to go home for the holidays, and lots of really precious short stories like that. They're all like about 10 to 20 pages long. They're very short, they're very sweet. I think, yeah, this author also wrote one of the stories in Ancestor Approved, and that and this are both part of the Heart Drum imprint, featuring native stories. This is Rain Is Not My Indian Name, which deals with grief of this girl whose best friend has died, and she has been very lethargic and depressed for the last 6 months, and it's about her kind of coming out of that and making new connections and restoring old connections and getting back into photography, which is one of her big hobbies, and that really means a lot to her, but that she has had difficulty doing ever since she's been so sad. And also getting more involved with her family, who she's been a little disconnected from, and becoming good friends with her brother's girlfriend, who lives with them. And so, and then there's also a program that her aunt is doing to help the local indigenous kids connect with each other, and so she gets a little bit involved with that. 4 stars to Princess Ever After, and 2 stars to both of the others. Then on Yucca and the Academy of the Sun, which is definitely a 5-star read. I don't know if this is the beginning of a duology or a trilogy, but there will be more of these. This is about a young girl living in the UK who discovers that she has magic hair. Her powers suddenly emerge when she needs to save her friend from drowning at a pool. She has always felt like her hair was too much and too difficult to deal with, so it is a real journey of her changing her relationship with her hair and learning to embrace it. And when her powers emerge, her mother decides they need to move back to Nigeria and search for her father, because her father also had powers, and finding him might be the key to figuring out how to control her powers so she doesn't hurt anyone or herself. But she also enrolls in the Academy of the Sun in Nigeria, which is a school for a bunch of people with similar powers. And we start discovering things about where the powers originated and how the school kids are treated, and how they go into the military directly upon graduation, and how they are separated from their parents as soon as their powers are discovered. So there's a lot of suspicious stuff going on, and so we start learning more about that, and we also get to know a little squad of people that starts to form around our main character. And you can see here several of them that are going to be involved in her story. And yeah, it was really interesting. It had those mystery elements and the magical powers and the magical school elements. And I just really love the whole concept of her superpower being her hair. Then we have Fat Chance Charlie Vega by Crystal Maldonado. This one was a leftover recommendation from the plus size readathon. It is a contemporary YA about a girl who is going to school and has a lot of self-esteem issues, fair amount of which are caused by her mom showing favoritism to her best friend over her, and also with the boys that Charlie likes liking her best friend and not her. Those get worse through the first half of the book. Not let that influence her friendship, but that's pretty difficult. But it's also about her forming a really sweet relationship with a co-worker at her after-school work, and some about her improving her relationship with her mom. I like this a medium amount. I think I gave it 4 stars. It's not my favorite genre, but it was very interesting. Then Drag Me Up by R.M. Virtues. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling. Not exactly. It's Hades and Persephone inspired, and the characters are named those things. And there are a bunch of other characters who are also named after Greek gods and goddesses. But the storyline is very much not the same storyline. It just has like a mom who doesn't approve of Hades and them being from very different worlds. That's about it. Persephone is trans, and who's her best friend? Aphrodite is as well, and so is Hestia, her aunt. And I really enjoyed it. I like a lot of slightly Hades Persephone inspired stories because they tend to include Hades' character who's very tough on the outside and like scary, but who's a big softy on the inside, and that's one of the things that I really like. And usually a bit of a grumpy sunshine pairing type thing going on as well. So I thought I would probably like this. It's a bit of a organized crime type of a story because like there aren't elected leaders of the city. They like, the Zeus is the head of the city they live in basically because of power plays and stuff, and there are various sections of the city that different people are in charge of because they can be. So if you enjoy organized crime romance, you might get those vibes from this as well. I'm still reading Spectrums, the autistic trans essay and poetry collection. I'm about 65% of the way through now. I think it'll probably take me all of September to finish it because I am trying to digest it very slowly because there are some very sad stories and some very emotional stories in there. I did find one that I'm pretty sure is by Kevi of Say Kevi, and that was very interesting, but they're all very interesting. And yeah, some of them are like a lot about autistic and trans joy, and some of them are like a mix of that with a lot of the pain. So they are a little bit difficult to read sometimes, so I am taking it slow. Oh, and I just finished reading A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcy Little Badger, and it's really, really good. It took me a while to get involved in the story because it kind of starts with backstory of both of the characters instead of kind of in the action or in the main point of the book, which you kind of find out what that is at about 30 to 40%. So it might have been easier to get into if like it had started there and then the backstory had been told through flashbacks, but a lot of people don't like flashbacks, so it's a personal opinion thing. But once it got to the point where I knew what the main conflict was going to be, I was invested in the characters and like cared about them. Yeah, I really liked where it ended up going. This is about animal people, are actually animals but have false forms where they can transform into something that looks a lot like a human, but has a few animalish characteristics like scaled eyebrows or fuzzy patches. And when a creature on Earth goes extinct, the animal people who live in the animal people's world, who are that specific type of animal, will also disappear. So the story is about our main character, one of our main characters, Ollie, who is a cottonmouth snake, finding out that one of his friends, who's a frog, has his species going extinct on Earth, so he needs to travel to Earth to try to save the last of the frogs there so that his friend will be able to live. And our other main character, Nina, is trying to save her grandmother's house and also her grandmother, because her grandmother has some kind of a mystical connection to the land she lives on and cannot evacuate from hurricanes that are coming. And so she lives very near to where the habitat for the frogs is, so these two people come together to try to both save the frogs and save grandma and grandma's house. And there are some really fun animal people side characters that get involved that we make good friends with, some coyotes and a hawk and a very funny bear. So yeah, I think at about 15% these other characters started getting introduced, so that helped draw me in, and then I think at about 30% we started like figuring out what the point of the book was, so that helped me get into it a lot more as well. But yeah, I really like Darcy Little Badger's writing style, and I had a lot of fun reading it. Definitely 5 stars. So that should be everything I read in August that I haven't already talked about. I'd love to know how your month has gone and if you have any plans for September. If you'd like to leave an emoji, how about a snake for a snake falls to earth? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!